Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everyone. This is Dennis K here with Belize Islands Real Estate coming to you live on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It is January the 11th, 2018, and we're going to start here in about 1 or 2 minutes officially. But do me a favor, let me know if you can hear my voice okay. If you can, type in yes in the question box. I want to make sure I'm being heard properly. And if you see my opening slide, thanks, Mike, I appreciate that. So the opening slide that should be on your screen now is the picture of myself, my name, and a couple of the TV shows I've had the privilege and honor to be on. All right, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. So today is a little bit of a different episode, and I'm very, very excited to be coming to you live today because this is the lifestyle episode. I'm going to be talking to you about a lot of things Belize related. But first of all, I'm not coming to you live from Belize. I am actually in Slovenia, Eastern Europe. And here's why. It is our 25th wedding anniversary next month. We were married on February 4th, February 4th, 1992. And so we are on a 3-week anniversary getaway. Our first week we're spending here in Slovenia. First couple of days at a chalet in Lake Bled. Then next week we're going to Skopje, Macedonia to meet some friends there before finally wrapping up our last week in Austria. And we're really looking forward to it. So you might be saying to yourself, Dennis, why are you presenting on Belize? Why are you working when you're on your anniversary trip? Well, there's a good reason for that. First of all, I am all about the lifestyle. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I love to travel. My wife and I love having unique experiences. And I figure a lot of you who are attending today are likewise, and you're looking to do something similar with your life, either in Belize or elsewhere. So I thought, you know what, why not? Let's just go ahead and present anyway. However, I am going to try to keep this one to an hour. The last several episodes have gone well over that, about an hour and a half, but I have my wife waiting for me. There's a fire in the fireplace and a glass of wine waiting, so I'm going to do my best to present all the information I prepared for you today, which is quite a bit, and then take as many of your questions live as possible. All right, so here we go. So first of all, what am I going to talk to you about today? Well, this being the lifestyle episode, I'm just going to give you the brief history of how Steph and I moved from Michigan to Belize, why we chose the country of Belize, and talk to you about what it's like to become an expat in a foreign country. We lived in different countries around the world and have a little bit of experience in this. I'm also going to talk to you about the difference between the mainland versus the islands, that is, of Belize, the pros and cons of living on each. Short-term versus long-term living as an expat in a foreign country. And then finally, Belize real estate as a vehicle to fund your lifestyle. And that's lifestyle in general, whether that be in Belize or as an expat in another country, or even just an improved quality of life if you stay right there in the United States or Canada. So one more thing before we get started officially is I am coming to you live from Slovenia. I believe the internet here is fast enough to host this webinar, but if my voice starts to break up, please just stay on the webinar, stay online. Usually it kicks back in about 20 to 30 seconds, but I do notice with some rainstorms passing, I might lose you guys for a few seconds, but don't give up. Hang in there with me, and we'll make it through. All right, very good. So what is our story? Well, Steph and I had a great life. Married in 1992. We both had good jobs. We bought a bay house, so I lived in Bay City, Michigan. We had a nice house on Lake Huron. We had the typical 2 cars in the garage and a nice boat out front. But then something happened that became a turning point for us. Something that happened that made us really think about where life was going and how we wanted to spend our life, especially during our younger years when most people are working, they're heavily in debt, and they're planning for retirement somewhere down the road. We wanted to use our health and our youth to do something different while we had the chance. And so what happened in the spring of 1999, I was working on a Saturday, working overtime again for probably the 3rd or 4th Saturday in a row, because again, in order to afford all the toys, we had to go in debt. So here I was working, came home late on a Saturday to find my bay house filled with my friends who had gotten into my wine cellar, were drinking my wine, partying on my beach. And instead of being thrilled that I had this opportunity to join them, I was a little bit resentful and bitter that here I was working, more than 55, sometimes 60 hours a week to afford what some would call the good life, and not having the time to really enjoy it. I had the things, but where was the time to enjoy it? So Steph and I decided to make a change. We started to research different businesses, how we could get out of the rat race and go in business for ourselves. So we ended up selling everything. We sold the house, the boat, the cars, moved into an apartment, and then set upon this plan to become an entrepreneur. And the first business I'd had in the US was something called concrete engraving. This enabled me to extract myself from the 9 to 5 grind. What concrete engraving is, just very briefly, is taking a plain concrete driveway that's already been poured and hardened. It could be a year old, could be 20 years old, and making it look like you see in this picture here. This beautiful paver look. Sometimes we can make it look like bricks. Anyway, this was the business that really got me thinking as an entrepreneur, so that no longer was I working 40 hours a week. I was working anywhere from 15 to 35 hours a week, making 3 or 4 times as much money as I did at my corporate job. And best of all is I had that freedom now to think about doing something else and living a completely different lifestyle. So we looked at each other one day. We said, you know what? Let's move abroad. We were very young. Steph was 27 and I was 32. I think it's very young. And I said to my wife, I said, I have several criteria that need to be in place before I will consider moving to a foreign country. Now, again, at the time, this was like a 1 year sabbatical. We just wanted to do something crazy and go somewhere for a year. And so I said, I want it to be English speaking, because I don't speak any other languages at the time. And now I speak a little bit of Chinese and American Sign Language, Belizean Creole, things like that. But at the time, only English. So I wanted to move somewhere where I could communicate well. I wanted it to be close to the United States because, again, I was a little fearful. I didn't really have the full support of my friends and family in doing this. No one in our realm of influence had ever moved outside of the country. And so I wanted to be close to the country so I didn't feel as scared or nervous. So I could just be back in the US with a 2.5 hour plane ride. But I wanted there to be enough of a cultural difference. I didn't want to just move states. I wanted to move to a different country so I could see how people live somewhere else, how they thought, how they did things. So really, I was looking for some personal expansion. And also, I was looking for a place that felt safe and comfortable. Well, after about 3 weeks, my wife came to me and she put down a stack of papers in front of me. She said, Dennis, I found us a place. We're moving to Belize. And I looked at her and said, where the heck is Belize? And again, this is back in 1997. 97 was it? Let me think about here. 99. Never heard of the country of Belize. When I found that it was in Central America, really wasn't keen on the idea. The only thoughts I have of Central America were like Che Guevara running around the camouflage outfit with the bullets all over his chest. And I thought, I'm not really into that as a lifestyle move. But no, she assured me that it was going to be really, really cool. So here's what we did. We made our own little Belize discovery trip. We went down to Belize for 3 weeks, and we hit all the some of the major sites, not all, but we hit things like Ambergris Key, Key Caulker, the Cayo District, Belize City, Ladyville, a couple points in between, and ended up 1 year later, in July of 2003, making the big move. So there was a several period of transition from the time I really thought about doing something different, becoming an entrepreneur, having my own business, and then finally in July of 2003, making the big move, put our stuff in storage, and moved down to Belize. And we chose as our first little foray into expat living, a very small village about 16 miles west of Belize City called Hattieville. So we chose the mainland. Now, why the mainland? Well, because during this year, it was a sabbatical year, so I wasn't going to be working. I wanted to involve myself in some sort of missionary work. So we attached ourselves to a local congregation in Hattieville. And from there, we had a good 2.5 years of mainland living. And it was really good because we were able to be part of the community, to give back in several ways, to work with troubled youth, and accomplish a lot personally. That the rewards that we reaped from doing that kind of work and living that lifestyle, I would never trade it for the world. And some of the benefits of living on the mainland are this. It has a definite lower cost of living. We were renting a small 3-bedroom house for around $200 US a month. For the first 6 months or so, we didn't have a car, so we were just taking the local bus. And even when we did get a vehicle, it was pretty inexpensive. And we just liked the overall relaxed lifestyle. But there were a couple of things that we didn't really appreciate about it. And again, this really goes to our personality. Maybe it speaks to you, but after a while, life felt sort of normal. And what I mean by that is Belize is absolutely a different country than North America. I mean, you can't escape it. Even though they speak English, don't mistake it for little America or little Canada, because it's an absolutely different culture. But if you're renting a little home and you have a little car and your sort of day-to-day activity is the same, it can just feel like almost like your life just lives somewhere else. So in the end, we were looking for more of a bigger change, more of a bigger lifestyle change. Now, it was really cool being on the mainland, having a car, because at any given time, you can just pop in the car, head down to Placencia, Punta Gorda. You can go on a jungle tour or to see the Mayan ruins. And this is really cool because when family and friends would come down and visit us when we lived in the mainland, we would have these really cool experiences and just really gave us an opportunity to travel the country from top to bottom and everywhere in between. And as we got to know other expats, we realized that they also had the same thoughts as we did about the mainland. They loved certain aspects of it. However, some of them found it difficult to integrate into the local community. What I mean by that is we had a built-in community to come down to, one of the local congregations. But a lot of people coming down that want to come down as retirees are simply looking for a cheaper lifestyle, a budget destination where their dollar can stretch, and they might not really have a community of people that really, I guess, integrates with. You know what I'm saying? So the local Belizeans are very friendly, but just like you are at home right now. I mean, how many of us in the States and Canada really know who our neighbors are and do things with our neighbors and get together on the weekends and hang out? Well, it's sort of the same thing in Belize. Unless you're part of a community of like-minded people, it might be hard to integrate, and the lifestyle might not be what you expected. But again, this is just a personal thing. And if you're very laid back, very self-sufficient, you're not really a social animal, then the mainland or parts of it might be for you. Well, after about 2.5 years, we decided to go out to Ambergris Caye, Belize. Now, why? Well, here's the thing. I was kind of going back and forth to the U.S., running my little concrete business, and then going back to Belize and sort of making my money in a month or two, and then going back for 3 or 4. But after a while, we decided, what, let's make Belize home. That got us through the first year or two. Let's go ahead and try to put down some roots. So we moved out to Ambergris Caye. I have a strong sales and corporate engineering background. So what we decided to do is look for work, and we did find work. I got into the real estate business out there and had a great life. And this life on Ambergris Caye more suited to what we're looking for long term. And I'm going to explain a couple things by what I mean by that. First of all, mainland living and island living are completely different. You really can't even compare the two. Mainland feels normal. You have a car, you have a house, such and such. Island living is almost being like on a permanent vacation, a permanent holiday. And I'm going to kind of walk you through why that is as we go through these things. Now, there are some pros and cons, so I'm going to paint a realistic view of them. First of all, you do have a higher cost of living. There's no doubt about it. Rents are higher. You're going to spend a lot more on electricity. As an example, most places on the mainland do not have air conditioning, and the electric that your house will use there is very minimal, so maybe $25, $30 a month. On the island, you are going to pay a lot more because most likely you're going to run the AC for at least part of the month or part of the day. So your bills for that are going to be a bit higher. Your rents are higher. Also, food costs are higher because everything has to be barged out there. And by the time you tack on those barge fees, especially if it's a refrigerated item like ice cream or milk or things like that, because those barges don't come free, and so sometimes your cost of living will be higher. But then again, you don't have to have a car. So no car insurance, no expensive repairs on a car. We use golf carts at Ambergris Caye, and they're a lot less expensive. My total gas bill each month for my golf cart was about $15 US, and I drove a lot up and down the island. It's easier to integrate into the community, both someone who has a group to move into and to be with, such as if you're moving down to be a part of a club or church or community, then you already have that. But even if you're just moving down green, so to speak, and you move down not knowing anybody, the expat community there is very welcoming. So you just go hang out at the beach bars for a bit, go to the Saga, go to the Humane Society, get involved in the school system, volunteer somehow. There's all sorts of things to do with a very short period of time. You're really integrated into the island life itself. You're not a loner out there. It's a very social place to be. It's not saying that if you don't like people as much that you have a difficult time, but you do have more opportunities for interaction. And the con of island life that I will state, at least for me, was some of the inconveniences of island life. And what I mean by that is being on an island means you're on an island. I mean, you're out there surrounded by water. So if you need to go to the mainland, like we did several times a year, well, then you have to get on a water taxi. It's a 90-minute water taxi ride over. Sometimes it can be a bit rough on the seas, or you can take a 17-minute tropic air flight. Now, again, those things aren't big deals in and of themselves. Taking a tropic air flight to the mainland to get some things done, it's sort of an adventure, but it can also be an inconvenience for some because you're not just able to jump in your car, run down to Costco and things like that. So I thought that was after a while, it just being, oh man, I don't want to have to go here because it just takes some planning and whatnot. But those are what I consider the pros and cons of life on the island. Now what I'm going to do is sort of switch gears. These are questions that have come in from you viewers that have been the most upvoted, and they're all about life as an expat in Belize. So I'm going to use these questions to tell you my experience. So first of all, Matt had the question, how do I move, and I put those words in quotation marks, how do I move to Belize and deal with immigration, visas, and extended stays? Okay, Matt, it depends on what you mean by move. Is this a temporary move? You're going to spend a couple months a year there, 6 months a year as a part-time resident. Are you going to spend a year there or more? So you're going to completely cut ties and move. So here are the three things you need to know if you're planning on moving to Belize. First of all, if you're just going to be there short term, in other words, 2, 3, 4, 5 months a year, 6 months a year, then it's very easy. When you land at the international airport, they will stamp your visa, good for a 30-day visit. To renew that visa at the end of 30 days, you go into the local immigration office. There's one right downtown San Pedro, and you simply pay a very small fee. I think it's $25 US now. It's been a long time since I did it. $25 US, and they will stamp your passport for another 30-day stay. So you can stay 2 months for 25 bucks. You want to stay another month, make it 3 months. Again, go up to the office. You spend about 15 minutes there. They stamp your passport. You can stay like this for 6 months, paying $25 a month. And if you stay longer than 6 months, then you pay $50 a month. So very, very easy. All right, not complicated. If you want, you can make a border run, go up to Mexico for a few days and come back, and that sort of resets the timer. So you can stay for 6 months, go to Cancun, go to Playa del Carmen, come back down. Again, very, very easy. Now, if you want a sort of a structured long-term stay without having to do that, again, not an issue. I stayed for 5, 6 years like that. But if you want to stay on a more of a permanent stamp, then there's a couple of things you can do. Number one is you can get a work permit. So you can go to work for an existing company, or you can form your own business and get a work permit that way. Getting that takes about a good 3 to 4 months, depending on how you're applying, what you're applying for, or you can apply for a permanent residency card. And to do that, you simply stay in the country for 1 solid year, so 12 consecutive months, only leaving less than 14 days during that time period. Once you do that, then you can apply for a permanent residency card, which allows you to come and go in Belize at will. So if you're going to be spending a lot of time in the country, going back and forth a lot, I would suggest that at some point in your travels, try to stay for that 12-month stretch. It might be difficult because, weddings, graduations, whatever's happening in the States or Canada. Try to stay for those 12 months to get that permanent residency stamp, and then once you get it, then you are good to go. And then the third thing you can do, if you want, is you can get your second passport. So once you're in the country of Belize for 5 years, you can get that second passport, and then you have a U.S. and Canadian and a Belize passport. I don't. Never found the need to get one. A lot of my American friends do. They think it's pretty cool, but I just have a permanent residency card. So that works fine for Steph and I. All right, next question. How do I deal with, there we go, from Tom, Tom D. What is the situation with hurricanes in Belize? That is a very good question. First of all, they rarely hit Ambergris Key. All right. Now, I know rarely doesn't make all of you feel comfortable, but we have a lot less of a chance of getting hit with a major hurricane than Florida or Texas or Louisiana, because if you ever watch the hurricane models and tracking paths, you'll find that most of them get pushed up and west by the trade winds that come across the U.S. And so rarely will they have enough calm weather to travel all the way across the Caribbean and then hit Belize and Ambergris Key. That they do happen sometimes. I'm not saying they don't happen, but the chance of their hitting is a lot less than very major popular areas in the U.S. and nobody doesn't move to those areas because of them. They just take precautions. So what I would suggest that you do is plan for them and then forget it. And what I mean by that is Steph and I always had a little bit of money set aside. So we kept a little money in the bank or in cash somewhere in a shoebox. And we told ourselves that if a hurricane ever started to come, this was our little vacation money. So we were going to use that money to go to the Kyle district of Belize up in the hills. Last time we went to Windy Hill Resort, obviously kind of an odd name to escape a hurricane, but that was the name of the resort, Windy Hill. So we went to an area that would not be affected by the flooding, by the winds, and we just viewed it as a getaway. If the hurricane missed us, oh well, we had a nice little 3-4 day vacation. If it did hit Ambergris Key, then we would allow a week or two to go by for everything to get back to normal, and then we would fly back home or boat back home and everything would be fine. So plan for it and then forget it. First of all, don't be stressed about it because they're rarely going to happen, and don't be surprised. So be prepared. One of my mentors, Tony Robbins, said, nothing in life should take you by surprise. In other words, I watch these people in Miami and West Palm Beach, Florida. Every time a hurricane is coming, the government is saying, evacuate, evacuate, leave now, leave now. And you have these guys that sit in their homes, say, nope, I'm not leaving. And they don't bother to get water. They don't bother to get gas. And then they cry and complain when they're affected. Well, in Belize, just be smart about it. If a hurricane starts coming toward you, just get off the island. Just go somewhere else for a bit. And really, the Ambergris Key is primely located to withstand even a very strong hurricane because of the barrier reef that sits right outside its front door. So this large wall of reef hugely negates any sort of storm surge that comes in. For instance, it can be 15 feet waves on the reef and little 2.5 foot waves on the shoreline. So we build to withstand hurricane winds. The reef protects us from the storm surge. So I say, you know what, shouldn't be a major concern. Next question from Craig and Lisa. Do we need to open up a local bank account? And how do we get money into the country from Canada? Excellent questions, Craig and Lisa. So here is my answer. Again, dealing with my own personal experience. There is no need for a local bank account. Steph and I did open a local account at Belize Bank. We thought it would be good. And then we found out that we didn't really need a local bank because everything that we bought, we either paid cash for or we used our credit or debit card. So just like you would at home, I imagine most of you listening in today do your shopping online. You pay your bills with your credit card. You use your debit card every time you go out and buy something from a pack of gum to your groceries. And this is the same in Belize, especially because you can have an ATM machine down there. You can go anywhere and get Belize cash. Or just use your debit and credit cards anyway. So we found, oddly, after setting up our big account, we never used it. Not once. We paid all our local bills this way, water, cable, electricity. We never found the need to have a local bank. Now, others might have a difference of opinion. They might find it beneficial to have them. Maybe they have rental income property in Belize and they want that money to stay in the country, so they have that money put quarterly into the local account. So if you want one, it's easy to get. You just provide the local bank with the color copies of your passports, a letter of reference from an accountant or an attorney, and a letter of reference from one of your local banks there in North America. So those things, and with those things, you can easily open an account. But again, never really saw the need to have one for us. Here's another question from the Williams family. Should we hire a moving company to ship our stuff down? Now that is a good question. I'm assuming that the Williams family are packing up lock, stock, and barrel, and they are moving down to Belize, maybe even thinking of driving their stuff down with a rental truck or whatever. So here is my experience, and I'll tell you some of the experiences of my clients with shipping things to Belize. First of all, I have seen plenty of expats, myself included, move countries with just your suitcases. And I highly recommend you do that, especially at first as you're testing it out. So hire a storage facility. If you got a mom and dad with a big basement like we did, put your stuff in storage, all your photo albums, the things that you don't want to get rid of, put them in storage and move down with your clothes, because you can find a furnished apartment. You don't need that many things. But if you do want to ship things down, here are some things you need to keep in mind. Your items that you are shipping will be subject to a 40 to 60% import tax. So you need to ask yourself, is it worth it for me to ship this old nasty couch or dining room set or a dresser or whatever it is it worth it for me to ship these used items that is going to cost me a good amount to be shipped down, and then once they get to Belize, I need to pay duty on them just to have my own stuff in my apartment or in my home, when really there are a lot of benefits to going local. What I mean by that is your North American style furniture, which is usually made for homes that have plush carpet and drywall and things like that, may not necessarily fit in with the look and feel and vibe of a life in Belize. Now, this applies to both the mainland and to the islands. What I'm going to show you later is the benefits of going local. What I mean by that is choosing products for your home or apartment that are made on the island or on the mainland that really fit in nice with the local culture, and that you'll be much happier with, rather than sitting there staring at your same old couch that you've been staring at for the past 10 years. So I recommend you to move with your suitcase. If you do have a small amount of personal effects that you want to bring with you, go ahead and have that shipped down. There's a company out of Belize City called Hyde Shipping. I can email you the information if you're interested, and they can help you coordinate those type of things. But not a big deal, pretty easy. In fact, Steph and I had a van shipped down from Miami, from the port of Fort Lauderdale there, got into Belize City and drove it off the barge and had it in the mainland for about a year before he moved to the islands. So that's about it on that. Here's a question from Lori G. I need regular medical checkups. What is the medical care like in Belize? Good question, Lori. Let me just take a quick sip of water here and I'll answer it. All right, so my advice to you and to others who are having temporary or chronic health problems is it really depends on what sort of issue you're facing. Now, some of my clients have problems that can be managed quite easily with medication. It could be heart problems, depression, diabetes, things like that. So any medications that you take on a regular basis for things like that will probably also be available in Belize for the most part. But if you have any serious problems that take a regular visit to a specialist or a hospital, or maybe some life-threatening situations, well then, I don't really know if Belize is going to be the right move for you. And here's why. We have excellent medical care on the island of Ambergris Caye. There's several good doctor's offices, a very good polyclinic, and I've seen them treat some very serious conditions and accidents. Everything from full-blown concussions to operations to saving people's lives because unfortunately they had a limb loss in boating accidents. Very, very horrible things. I've seen the medical team on Ambergris Caye go into action and really provide top-notch medical treatment. I've also seen the private hospital in Belize City. So there's two of them, Belize Medical Associates and Belize Healthcare Partners. Those are two private hospitals that have done excellent work for very good friends of mine, including my wife. She had emergency surgery there. They did a fantastic job. All that price is much, much lower than in the U.S. and Canada. And the fact is, you can get insurance in Belize. So you can either get an insurance through a company like RFNG who provide medical insurance. You can get an international policy on yourself from a company called Cigna, Signa. That's who we use now, so it covers us wherever we are in the world. And or you can self-fund. And I know it's scary to most people, but in Belize, doctor visits are cheap. Even full-blown surgeries are tend to be very cheap. So if you want, you can get away with not having anything in self-fund, which I don't recommend. I recommend building a little bit more of a robust and redundant life to protect yourself from the unknown. But overall, I would say come on down, check it out for yourself. And if you have any really serious problems, maybe talk to a local doctor about it next time you're on vacation in Belize and see what he recommends. All right, very good. So here's a question from Kurt B. He asks, I've never lived on an island before. Do you ever get island fever? Now, this is a really good question because you would think living on a small island, 25 miles long by 4 miles wide, and in some even smaller, like Key Caulker, which is extremely small, that you might find yourself getting bored, run out of things to do, sort of going a little stir crazy. And here is my answer to that. The island lifestyle is pretty unique in the fact that there are so many things to do, both from a fun perspective, things you might maybe in the United States or Canada reserve to do on a Saturday afternoon, but really become an integral part of your life when you're living on the island. This doesn't mean that every day is a vacation or every day is a holiday. For instance, if you still have a job, which of course many of us are going to have, whether that be an online job or spending time each day running our businesses from afar or even having a local job, the opportunities to engage in fun activities seem to be really dense on such a small place. So here are some things you can do. You can day sail. You can go out sailing on a monohull sailboat or a catamaran, snorkeling all up and down the coast, either with a boat or from a kayak. So right from the shores of Ambergris Key, you can take a kayak out to the reef. You can snorkel, you can dive, you can fish, you can go golf karting, beach barbecues, the opportunities for music. At home, a lot of us wish we could go out and listen to live music more. On any given night in the week on Ambergris Key, you can find live music at Crazy Canucks. You can find it at Fido's. Next week, Jerry Jeff Walker event, he's in town. There are a lot of opportunities. So if you're in your normal life, what I call your normal life in the States, you want to go out and listen to music tonight? Yeah, let's just sit home and watch TV, So you sort of don't do those things you want to do. But for some reason, when you're living on Ambergris Key, you do those things. So there is more opportunities to get out. Also, if you have hobbies that you find yourself just not doing right now because you don't have the time or desire, for some reason, because you have more time, the sun sets in Belize at around 6 o'clock, so it's dark at 6. So if you like to be in the house by dark, then you have plenty of time to engage in some of these other hobbies. Now, over the next few slides, what I want to do is just run through briefly one particular tour company called Seduced by Belize. They're based right out of San Pedro town, and these things that I'm going to show you are really meant for the tourist. So the overnight guest who comes down to Belize, they want a vacation for a week, and they want to experience all these cool, fun things to do. So even though that's what this company is geared toward, on any given tour, you are going to see a large percentage of locals joining the tour just because these things are so cool to do. So for example, this is one of the houseboat tours that Seize the Day does. They do it on the back side of the island, the secret beach side. So they go out there, they spend the day in Ambergris Bay. There's dolphins back there. They do an amazing tour of the west side coast. It's a beautiful way to spend either a sunset cruise, an afternoon, or even a full day. If you want to get away from Ambergris Key a little bit, you can go and see the manatees on Gulf Ski. It's an absolutely pristine island with plenty of manatees to be seen. You can go up to Robles, which is on the north side of Ambergris Key, and do a beautiful beach barbecue up there. That's where the reef actually touches the land. You can go up past Robles Point and go to the Bacalar Chico Marine Park and Reserve, which is a United Nations World Heritage Site. Absolutely pristine part of the island. Very, very few people get it. They have some Mayan ruins up there. That's fun to do. You can also do a half-day snorkel tour at Ho Chan Marine Reserve or at Mexico Rocks or at other places. You can also do a full day catamaran tour. So it goes from Ambergris Key to the island of Key Caulker, stops at Shark Ray Alley and Ho Chan Marine Reserve, so 2 snorkel stops, plus allows you to eat lunch on Key Caulker, walk around. Let me tell you, my wife and I did this tour, this Key Caulker day sail all the time because it was a nice way to have someone else in charge of the boat. They gave you plenty of rum punch and ceviche, and so you just got to be on this sailboat all day and come back sunburned and tired and drinking rum punch and singing on the boat with everyone. So, we lived in Belize. At this point, we were still taking these tours after being there for 13 years because it was so fun. You can also take a sunset cruise. Now, if you want to go to do something different, you can go to the mainland, and the mainland can keep you busy for years. There's several major Mayan rune sites to see. El Tunja, Lamanai Jungle. You can go cave tubing, zip lining, go to a jungle spa, a jungle resort. There's the Monkey River tours. There's the Punta Gorda area, the Mayan villages of the south. You can go into the Mopan and Quechua Mayan villages and see how they live. It's absolutely thrilling and amazing. And all of these things are things that we locals do, not just tourists, but we do them all the time because they're so much fun. And here are some candid shots of locals, expats enjoying the island on their own. What a place to put your grill. It's the sandbar on the backside of the island, just filled with lobster and shrimp and steak, and just a fantastic way to spend the day. You can also charter a catamaran, either bareboat. So if you have your captain's license, you can go out and charter, or you can just hire a boat like Felicity. They're owned and operated by 2 very good friends of ours. So you can do that. The Bladens own that, so you can take that out on a day sail or a 2, 3, 4 night sail. Absolutely great way to explore the outer islands of Belize. Here are some pictures of some different groups going out snorkeling. This is an actual picture in the lower left of Ho Chan Marine Reserve. So much sea life out there. Just a fantastic place to be with the family and the friends and the kids. Just enjoying the sunshine. If you are into fishing, either recreational or to eat, then definitely go to Belize. You can catch a wahoo, mahi-mahi, bonefish, permit, tarpon, grouper, snapper. Fantastic fishing. And again, you can do this with a guide. So if you have a favorite guide that you use, we always use Dilson of Dilson's Fishing Tours. But you can use any number of guides, or you can just fish from the shores of any place because all beaches are open to the public in Belize. So long as you have your own little rod and bait, you can find any stretch of beach where there's nobody, go out and hang out for the afternoon, make some fantastic memories. So those are some of the things that I enjoy doing. If you're a diver, then you know this already, that Belize has some of the absolute best diving in the world. The wall dives, the cave dives, and of course the world famous blue hole is absolutely amazing. Here's some other things you can do if you always wanted to write. I don't know, for some reason, my client database seems to be more tended to want to write either fiction or nonfiction books. They don't have the time right now, living in North America with their busy lifestyle. They find the time in Belize to write. Same thing with learning a new language. Some of them open up new businesses once they get to Belize. A brick and mortar business, maybe they open up a restaurant, cafe, beach bar, something like that, a little tour company, or they open up an online business. A lot of clients these days are looking for online ways of making a living or making an additional income, designing websites, getting involved in sales and marketing, things like that. This is a fantastic way to move to Belize and to make U.S. and Canadian wages while living in Belize and taking advantage of the cheaper lifestyle. Also, we talked about mainland exploration. And then finally, you can use your place in Belize as a basis for exploring other Central American countries. So example, when I lived in Michigan, I could easily jump in the car and go to New York and Pennsylvania and Cedar Point in Ohio, and even drive down to Florida and visit my brother in Myrtle Beach. So you think about how close the states are in the United States. Well, from Belize to Mexico is literally right on the border. So we would go often to Playa del Carmen and Cancun and Chetumal for getaways. You can easily go to Guatemala. You can go to the Mayan ruins of Tikal. You can go stay at Francis Ford Coppola's place there in Tikal. You can go to Honduras. You can go to anywhere in Central America easily if you have your home base based in Belize. So now I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, my top 5 restaurants. Many of you know I'm a foodie. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, my pictures are constantly about what I'm eating now. And so these are my top 5 restaurants, because here is where I continuously have some of the very best meals of my life. Number 1, the Blue Water Grill. This is the first restaurant I ever ate at way back in 2002 when we did our exploration trip. And I'll never forget, we had these shrimp skewers and a Greek salad, and they still have both of the menu today, and they're absolutely fantastic. So this restaurant is at the Sunbreeze Hotel, right across the street from Tropic Air. It's right on the water. They have sushi nights, so definitely don't miss out on those. World-class sushi. They also have wine dinners, excellent wine list, even have Opus One on the menu. It's fantastic. Number 2, Victoria House. Victoria House is one of the top resorts on Ambergris Caye. It's located 2 miles south of town. For a easy lunch, you can go to the Admirals Club, but for a complete gourmet experience for a dinner, go at night at the restaurant. It's very romantic, has a British colonial look to it, nice candles in there, hardwood floors, beautiful flowers. I'll show you a picture here in a bit of my favorite table. Victoria House, fantastic. Number 3, Mambo's. Mambo's is the restaurant at the Mata Chica Resort. Mata Chica is the coolest resort I've ever been in. It's got this really funky vibe, thatched roof palapas for individual huts to sleep in, and then this big, beautiful restaurant with a huge thatched roof hut, very eclectically designed with fixtures and furnishings from India, Morocco, and all over the world. It's got a really cool vibe to it. They also play some bumpin' house music, so it's got this kind of a neat little South Beach, Miami vibe going on to it. It's really, really cool. 4, Red Ginger. Red Ginger is a sister restaurant to the Blue Water Grill, owned by the same restaurateurs. It's a fantastic place to go for especially local food like snapper and grouper and lobster and conch and things like that. And also finally, Wild Mangoes. Wild Mangoes is located right in the ocean, right downtown, and Amy Knox does an incredible job there as chef, especially the Amy's Chef Salad. Get it for lunch. You will not be disappointed. Now, these restaurants are what I call they're not expensive, but they're not dirt cheap. They're not for everyday lifestyle, unless you like spending a lot of money on food. But as an example, the menu that I have here to the right, that's a menu at Red Ginger. Those are Belize dollar prices. So that's not bad. You're looking at, for a shrimp and grits, 38 Belize, seafood stuffed grouper, 54. So that's typical prices that you'd pay in the States for a high-end restaurant like this. But now for your everyday living, tiny bites of gourmet eats, I'm going to show you something that's a little bit of a secret. First of all, here's the shot of Blue Water Grill, lower left, Mambo's, upper right, Wild Mangoes, lower right. Those are my top 5 restaurants. And this is my favorite table at Victoria House. So if you make reservations, ask for this table. It's equally beautiful at night because many times the moon rises and the whole sea is just lit up with bright white. The palm trees are glowing. This table is great for lunch or for dinner. You will not be disappointed. Now, let's go to my top 5 favorite cheap eats, and allow me please to get a drink of water before my voice runs out. All right, so number 1 on the island, and they have a couple different locations now, is Neri's Tacos. Neri's Tacos. I'm going to show you the screen while I explain this. This is a literal hole-in-the-wall place that can be lined up to the street with locals getting their morning breakfast, their lunch, their dinner, and you will see expats like us fighting for our place in line. Neri's Tacos is absolutely the most well-known place for local food on the island of Ambergris Caye, Belize. And what they are famous for are these little cute chicken or pork tacos. And this slide shows you what they look like. So on this plate, there are 6 chicken tacos. They are 3 tacos for $1 Belize, or 50 cents US. So the tacos you see on that plate cost 2 Belize, 1 US. The juice is another 100, $1.50 US. So for $2.50, you have a really good breakfast, and in that little bowl is some hot sauce. So you got some habanero sauce in there, maybe some spicy tomatillo sauce. It's absolutely incredible. If you want to try something different, take a look at the menu. Hopefully you can see this on your computer screens. You can try the fried jack, the chicken and ham fried jack for $3.50 Belize, the beef or fish fried jack for $4 Belize. And then at nighttime, yeah, they go for the little bit different menu: garnaches, tostadas, empanadas, so butes. And again, those are all Belizean dollar prices. So people that say, oh, things are too expensive on Hamburger's Key, I can't afford it. You know what? You can afford it if you know where to look. Here is another example. Going to number 2 on my list, Tito's Barbecue. Tito sets up every Saturday and Sunday afternoon in front of the grocery store at the roundabout by the Kmart. There he is in the upper left-hand side, and he does pork ribs and chicken and beef, along with rice and beans and fried plantain and coleslaw. And usually a lunch there will cost $9 Belize, so $4.50 for a fresh-made local Belizean lunch. It's absolutely incredible. Get it all the time. You will not be disappointed. Number 3 on my list, Ruby's. Ruby's is a cafe right downtown San Pedro where many people go for their early morning coffee and to pick up their Johnny cakes and fried jacks. Again, very, very inexpensive, but so cool because you can get your coffee, get your Johnny cake, sit in the local chairs there overlooking the beach and strike up a conversation with locals who are hanging out. And it's just an incredible experience watching the sunrise, having your coffee at Ruby's. Grandpa Steph's grandpa came down several years ago now to see us, and that was our local hangout place, and just a really cool experience. Brianna's on Back Street serves incredible local food. Here's a picture of it. It's the local chicken and rice and beans with fried plantain and coleslaw. This is the local Belizean dish. It's the national dish. They all eat this all day, every day. And again, this plate of food here might cost you $3 US, $3.50 US. Very good deal. And again, high quality food. And then finally, pupusas. Pupusas are an El Salvadorian dish made by these El Salvadorian women. And here is a picture of her. I'm sorry, I don't know her name. I call her the pupusa lady. She's very sweet. And she makes pupusas, which is a cornmeal dough stuffed with then beans, chicken, different things like this. You can get them mixed. You can get them with different items. But it is absolutely wonderful. Probably not the healthiest for you. I think they got a little bit too much lard in it for everyday eating, but very, very good nonetheless. So that's what the lifestyle is like as far as the food goes. So I told you I was going to tell you about what's really irritating to me anyway, because this is my personal opinion. And here are the 4 things that bother me the most. Number 1, from time to time, the mosquitoes. When they are bad, they are bad. They are like little miniature, I don't know even what to call them, but they are bad. Okay, the size of hummingbirds, and there's a lot of them. Fortunately, on Hamburger's Key, that doesn't happen too often. And I know this because I lived at a place called Royal Palm for 3.5 years. It was about 2 miles away from the gym I used called the train station. And every morning at 6:30, I would walk over to the train station on the beach and back after my workout. And about 2 weeks to 3 weeks in any given year, I would completely be slaughtered with mosquitoes during those weeks. So if it rains super heavy and it doesn't dry out really good, then the mosquitoes are going to be bad for 4 or 5 days before they die off. So that little cycle went on sometimes 3 or 4 times a year. So I would say maybe 4 times a year I hated those things. But the rest of the year, it was fine. It's not like they're consistent in there all the time. Same thing with the sand fleas. Sometimes sand fleas can be really bad for 4 or 5 days. Sometimes you don't see them for months. So that's one thing that this sort of irritated me. But again, if you don't mind spraying on a little DEET, which I don't use the stuff much myself, maybe it doesn't bother you. So number 2, the rain and drying out. Now, Hamburger's Key does not really have a rainy season per se. Compared to the mainland gets a lot of rain, especially down in the jungle areas of Punta Gorda. They can get 120 inches of rain a year and more. Hamburger's Key gets a lot less. It's a Caribbean island. And so we might get more rain in some months than others, but it's not like you can say, you know what, I don't want to come down because it's the rainy season. Technically, our rainy season is September and October, and that we get more rain then than other months. But you probably won't even notice that it's a rainy season if you come down and it is rainy because it's just rain. It rains in the afternoon, it clears up and then dries out, and then it's sunny again the next several days. But if we do get rain 2 or 3 days in a row, the roads can look like this. So you see, this is just a gravel road. This is leading to San Pedrito, and it's obviously it's been raining. The road is flooded over a bit. Now it's not that the island gets flooded because you got to remember the island can't flood like the mainland can. The mainland can flood. It can get heavy rains. The rivers surrounding those areas can all lead into one. Roads can get washed out, bridges washed out. That's a flood. On the island of Ambergris Caye, you can get a lot of rain, but the rain just flows back into the ocean. It's impossible for the rain to raise the ocean level. So what you will find, though, is in some of these areas, the streets would tend to hold water if they haven't been graded in a while. So this kind of got on my nerves because, again, you're riding golf carts, and if you got to ride through this road maybe for 4 or 5 days or maybe a week or two because the grading can't take place on the road until it dries out. So most of the time it doesn't look like that, but the times that it does, all right, you know what? It was irritant to me. Number 3, island time. Type A personality coming down from North America. I did not understand that when somebody told me I would have it tomorrow, he didn't mean tomorrow. He meant next week sometime. Or if I was told that something would be complete on Monday, I didn't have to ask which Monday because there is such a thing called island time. Again, that was irritating to me. I had to get used to the way things are done in Belize. So the Belizeans are very hardworking. They're not lazy at all, but in some of the things, just that they, especially if a schedule is important to you, where something must be done by a certain time, you need to know that living in an island, delays can and often do take place. It could be because there's a shortage of labor on a given week, a shortage of materials on a given week, a shortage of supplies, things like that. So delays happen more often because of those factors outside of their control to deliver on time. So just kind of get used to that. And then finally, for me personally, more of a limited product availability. I've really gotten used to being able to go on Amazon and just order anything I want, anytime, have it show up the next day with fast shipping, priority shipping, or at least in a few days, less than a week. In Belize, if I'm listening to a podcast and all of a sudden my podcast guy says, "Hey, go online and try out this Fandazzle new product," well, I got to think, okay, how am I going to order it? When's it going to come in? Having it shipped? Is someone coming down to Belize that could bring it for me? Things like that. After a while, you sort of get used to it and you just make do with what you have. But for some, that's going to be an adjustment. You're going to have to put up with limited product availability for a while and either get used to it or find a way to work around it. Now, what are the things that I loved? Well, I loved becoming known in the community, and my name is Mr. Dennis. So if I go into a restaurant, a grocery store, get a coffee, for some reason they just call you by your first name there. So if your name is Kevin, they'll call you Mr. Kevin. I'm Mr. Dennis. I'm Mr. Dennis wherever I go, and that is cool because I never had that before. Even when I lived in the mainland, the local grocer never cared to know my name. On the island, they do. They give you a smile. It's, "Hey, Mr. Dennis, how are you? Would you like this? Would you like that?" It's got a nice feel to it. You feel appreciated. The simple things, number 2 on this list, the simple things become even more pleasurable as well. In other words, when I lived in the U.S., I used to love having coffee in the morning. I get up, I brew the coffee, I have a cup, and it was nice. But to have a cup of coffee and then take that coffee and go sit on a bench overlooking the ocean and watching the sunrise, or to have a coffee at a local cafe over watching the sunset on the backside of the island, or things like that. So, a dinner out in North America, that's pretty cool. I like going out with my wife to dinner in North America, whether it be a chain restaurant or having a gourmet experience. But on Ambergris Caye, to take a boat up the coast 6 miles and to watch the stars come out and then have a beautiful gourmet meal and not worry about driving home after a glass of wine, and then to come back and you see the Milky Way, a dinner out is different when you live somewhere like Belize, when you're an expat. It just means more. And then number 3, time. our most precious asset. Because everything is compact, I appreciate having more time in my day to do the things I want to do. In the States, sometimes running to the grocery store can be a 45-minute to an hour chore. By the time you get in the car, you drive there, you walk in, you shop, you get home. In Belize, you're never more than 2 or 3 blocks from a grocery store. So that trip now takes you literally 10 to 12 minutes. So you have all that extra time to do things with. And I find myself being rich on time and looking to backfill that space, which is a really cool problem to have, filling the void, because you can really get creative and the things you want to do and love to do. And that leads me into number 4, the personal growth and development. I really found out a lot about myself. I really expanded as an individual. I had time to read, to think, to meditate, to explore, to learn another culture, to realize, the way I was raised and where I was raised was pretty darn cool and I love it, but it's not the end all to be all. There's different ways of thinking, there's different cultures, and it's just neat to actually immerse yourself and experience these things. So now, how does my role as a real estate agent or a real estate investor tie in with everything I've just told you about being an expat? And maybe now, after listening to me, you don't want Belize, you're not interested, or maybe it did pique your interest to learn more. But whether or not Belize is for you personally, I'm going to go through a little exercise with you now in the way I view real estate in Belize. Number 1, I view it as simply a tool to accomplish your goals. In other words, a piece of land, brick and mortar, windows, doors, paint, furniture, all those are just objects. What are those objects going to do for you? How are they going to make you feel? How will they have an impact on your life and help you accomplish your goals? That is the way I encourage my client base to look at Belize real estate. Number 2, I'm going to talk about the benefits of owning your own place. I don't believe it's for everybody. I'm going to explain why in a minute. I'm going to go through the benefits of just renting a place when I suggest you do that rather than buying your primary residence. And I'm going to go through a very cool thing that I learned from Tim Ferriss, one of my business mentors, who taught me a lot about how to structure a lifestyle rather than just going through the motions. And that is how to use Belize real estate as a way to fund your particular lifestyle or to improve your retirement. So first of all, Belize real estate can be used as a vehicle to fund your personal lifestyle in Belize. And what I mean by that is point number 2, a place that you can use yourself to create those memories, to enjoy it, to have experiences with your family and friends, to do the things that excite you, whatever those things are, to explore new hobbies, to write, to learn something new, to grow as a person. To use real estate as a tool to do that, and from the comforts of having your own home, and to do that with your own place that you can say, this is mine. There's some pride in that. There's some benefits to do that. And at the end of the day, at the end of the life, you can ask yourself, what was it all for anyway? The stuff that you had in your life, was it used to simply make life easier, or was it meant to enhance and enrich your life? So based on that, here are some pros and cons, from my opinion, of owning your own home in Belize. Number 1, you get to nest. You get a sense of permanence. Owning your own home comes with a sense of pride. You say, you know what? In Belize, I have this condo, this home, and when I turn the key and open the door, that is mine. And everything in there is mine. And I feel at home, and I can relax and let my hair down and really be myself. And along with that, oftentimes comes a community built right in. Now, this is important for a lot of people because a lot of people are social animals like myself. We like to be on our own sometimes, but we also like to do things with other people, have a drink, have dinner, go off and do things. So oftentimes when you buy a condo or a home, you're doing so in a community where most of the real estate in that community is owned by other expats who have the same ideals and enjoyment of life that you do. So you will often form friendships with them and your kids with their kids. And you're going to form friendships because it's a different life than what your primary home in North America might be like. In other words, right now, your primary home in North America, you might not necessarily get to know your neighbors, do things with them. It's just not something where we do, and I don't know why, we just don't. But in Belize, because you're in this different mode, you do seek out those opportunities. Also, owning your own home allows you to build equity. So rather than what they call, throwing away your money in rent, you have a place. Prices in Belize are going up on homes, condos, and vacant land. So it does give you an opportunity to build some equity. It does, here's a couple cons, it does take a larger commitment. So in terms of capital expenditure. So to buy a condo, to buy a home, I'm going to give you some examples of how to do that now in a minute, but it does take a larger outlay of cash, and then you do have to be concerned with things such as upkeep and repairs, and what happens if a hurricane does come through? Did you get somebody to board up your place if you're not there, or what's going on? So there is some mental involvement as well as some physical work in owning your own home, but by and large, I think it's a good idea for about 65% of my customers. What owning your own home does is allow you to do is to furnish it and make it home and give it that island vibe. Again, that's different than the place that you probably live now. And this goes back to the question, I think, from Tom, who asked about shipping my things down. I recommend against it. Why? Well, take a look at this slide. These are things, home furnishings made by a local island builder called Granell, Armando Granell. He has a beautiful wood shop in right downtown San Pedro on Middle Street, and he can make you dressers, tables, beds, chairs, dining room sets, window trim, mirrors, all of these beautiful furnishings from local Belizean hardwood, rosewood, zeracote, mahogany. This is the kind of furnishings that really fit in well with the Belizean lifestyle. Also, your walls can be decked with the artwork from local Belizeans. So how cool is that? So there are several artists that live right on island. So if you take a picture of your favorite scene in Belize, they will paint that for you, give you like a custom piece of artwork. You can also get artwork from other artists throughout the country. And really, to be sitting in your own home in Belize, surrounded by this artwork, by these carvings, by these beautiful furnishings from Belize and other Central American countries, you really feel like you're somewhere different. And that's pretty darn cool. So here, very quickly, are a couple units that I feel would be good for those looking to own their own place in Belize. Number one, Royal Palms Unit 10A. I lived here for 3.5 years, not in this unit, but in a different unit. This is a beautiful residential resort, sits right on the Caribbean Sea. This particular unit is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You get full access to this beautiful large pool and the beach, which is extensive. It's a very large property width-wise. And you get a very high quality residential living. It's a very quiet property. It's not necessarily catering to tourists. So there's not a lot of tourists checking in and out. Mainly people that live here are full-time residents or part-time snowbirds. It's very close to lots of bars and cafes and grocery stores. And the price is very affordable. $219,000 US, turnkey, completely furnished. Next one I have for you is Miramar Villas. This is a much larger unit. This is a 1,700 square feet living space, 2 bedrooms, 2-bath, full access to the beautiful pool, beach. Oh my goodness, here, Dennis, give me a break. Let me just take a drink and start over. Full access to the pool, the beach, and the private pier, secured parking area, and it's very close to town, 2.5 miles south. Price is $339,000 US. Finally, a nice 1-bedroom, 3rd floor, incredible views looking off into the west over the San Pedro Lagoon. This is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. You get full access to the pool and bar, secured parking, incredible views, and this is a very, very good price at $165,000 US. Now, those are places you can buy now, turnkey, ready to go for personal use. If you're not ready to outlay that cash yet, you can secure your spot on the island by buying vacant land and then building a home or having a home built for you somewhere down the road. It can be next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, whatever your timetable is. Here are some options of where you could do that. I have a 4th row building lot about 9 miles north of San Pedro town. It's in a beautiful part of the island. It's a very large lot. It's a fourth row lot, meaning it's 4 rows back from the ocean. Full access to the beach and the barrier reef. From this lot, you can put your kayak in the water, be out snorkeling within about 5 minutes. It's incredible. The price, $57,750. That's it. So you buy the land now, you build when you're ready. Excellent way to get in the game. Here's also a good option, a Belize vacant lot in the Ambergris Woods subdivision. This is lot number 14. It's 2 blocks from Secret Beach, has road access already. And the benefit of being here is you get full access to all of those west side beaches in and around Secret Beach, which you can fish from. You can watch the sunsets. You have excellent swimming, no seagrass, no trash over there, overlooking Cayo Rosario, Blackador Key, which is Leonardo DiCaprio's island. Excellent place to start. If you're not looking to outlay a lot of cash right now, but you want to secure your spot, this would be a great place to buy a lot to build on down the road. And then finally, this just came in last night. I have a Grand Belizean Estates resale lot. It's lot number 739. You can see it pictured here. Actual picture of the lot. It's a 60 by 80 foot a lot in size, less than a 5-minute golf cart ride to Secret Beach, already has road access, and the sellers are motivated. Price is $16,900 US. Very, very good price. Easy for somebody to get in the game at these prices. Now, let me just go through this exercise with you because I think it's pretty cool. Then we're going to wrap up. The pros and cons of renting in Belize. I rented my primary residence in Belize. I never bought my own place to use personally. I bought other places for the income. I'm heavily invested in other real estate deals in Belize, especially vacant land and upcoming areas. So I rented because it was easy for me to move in somewhere and to change locations if I wanted to. This is good for a lot of my clients, especially if they want to experience different parts of the country. For example, you could spend a year in Kikaker, a year in Ambergris Caye, a year in Placencia, get to know different parts of the country. If you rent, you can do that. Also, the money you save, the capital you save by renting, could be used to make a financial investment in some other type of Belize real estate. Now, the downside, point number 4, lack of permanence. You don't have your own place, so you're probably not going to buy a lot of your own artwork, have your own furniture made, things like that. You don't have that pride of ownership. But again, depending on your personality, those things might not be important to you. They weren't important to me. That's why I rented. And instead, I used my finances to invest in other types of real estate. So here's the thing on this. Renting may create an opportunity for you to make an investment in something else. And I want to direct your attention to these 2 slides. The first slide is Mr. Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone is a real estate investor and sales trainer based out of Miami, Florida. He owns thousands of apartment buildings, but chooses to rent the condo that he and his family live in. He says, do not buy real estate that won't pay you income. Now, if you're not familiar with this concept, the concept is use your money to invest, and then with the returns from the profits, go ahead and fund your lifestyle. Now, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, in this next slide, who I also had the privilege of spending a week with in the Summit at Sea Investor Cruise, he has the same type of reasoning. In 1997, when he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he was talking about owning your personal home, and that for some and for many, it's not necessarily a good idea because it's not an asset. It takes your capital away, and you don't have anything then with which to make money. And of course, you got a lot of hate mail for real estate agents, but that's another thing. We'll talk about that in a different webinar. So here is my take on this whole little scenario. Investing in properties that give you a financial return may allow you more freedom to design your own life, both short-term and long-term. All right, so I know it's a long sentence, but here's what it means in short. Buy real estate that turns a profit to you, and then use those profits to live a lifestyle that you could not afford to live right now. And here is going to be a couple different case studies of how this exactly works. So the title of the slide, Funding Your Lifestyle, in Belize, or with other mini retirements. This is a concept I picked up from Tim Ferriss. So for example, there is a couple in the early to mid 30s. They're go-getters. They love life. They have a zest for travel. And they have decided to come down to Belize every year for 2 months and really enjoy it. They don't want to wait to retirement to their 55, 60, 65. They want to do it when they're young, like Steph and I did. So they said, you know what? We're going to come up with a plan where every 2 months we're going to pack up, we're going to go down, we're going to rent a place in Belize and explore. Or they might say to themselves, you know what? I'm going to do Belize some of these years, but in other years I'm going to go to Argentina or Paris or China or somewhere else because I'm going to spend these next 10 years taking 2 months a year and explore the world. And that's going to cost $100,000. And we're going to start when we're 40. So if they figure each trip with flights and rent is going to cost them $10,000 each, in 10 years, they will have had 10 epic experiences while they're young and healthy. They would have spent a total of 2 times 10, so 20 months outside of North America, living somewhere else, enjoying other cultures. And for that cost, it would have cost them $100,000 to do that. And so at the end of 10 years, they're left with incredible experiences and zero money, right? Because they spent what they saved. So here is the way that they could look at this a little differently. Same plan, but take that $100,000 and invest it in Belize real estate, and in particular, invest it in a mortgage or a note. And what I mean by that is you buy a property and sell it with owner carry financing terms. Now you become the bank, or you simply find somebody that holds a mortgage and offer them cash for it. As an example, I hold many mortgages myself. If you were to come to me and say, Dennis, I have $100,000, could you sell me one of your personal mortgages? I would sell that to you. I would cash out. You would be the mortgage holder, and then that mortgage is earning you 10% interest, because in Belize, owner carry financing is at 10%. Now, let's say that couple did this. Let's say they bought one of my mortgages for $100,000. So that $100,000 over the next 10 years is going to earn them $158,581. That's the interest on that. At the end of 10 years, what will they have received back as a return on investment? Well, those 10 epic trips or those 10 extended stays in Belize, plus they would be left with $58,000 or more in the bank, rather than having their savings going down to zero. So once you make that mindset shift of looking at Belize real estate like that, a lot of opportunities open up. Now, take this for example. Many of you are looking at Belize for retirement. And the average retirement fund that my clients seem to be having when I poll them is about 1 million US dollars in the retirement fund. Now, this is after they sell off their primary home and really get ready to make a move to Belize. So what I would encourage them to do, because many of them are looking at condos that cost, a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 and eat up a good chunk of that million. I said, no. Buy something cheaper and smaller. You're not going to be in it that much anyway. It's a beautiful country. Get out of the house and do things. So buy your primary residence. Let's say you set aside $250,000 US for that, and then you decide how much out of that million do you want to invest in vacant land deals or mortgages or notes, remembering that for each $100,000 invested, you're going to make a 10% return on that. So as an example, $200,000 invested, $20,000 a year on average. $300,000 invested, $30,000 a year. Now, how could that benefit you in your retirement? What would you do with that extra money? What more experiences could you have? Now, remember, you have your own place now, and you're choosing to invest in this way. So here is one property that I would recommend that my clients look at for investment or to secure their future place on the island. This is a second row lot on the west coast, just a few blocks south of Secret Beach. It's a very large lot. It's a 1.3 acre property. Is so large that you could subdivide it into 10 smaller lots. The profit on that is just incredible, and sell those off individually. And this lot is priced at $65,000 US. It's a cash deal, and it's arguably one of the best deals available anywhere at all in Belize. So you could buy this lot to sit on, to build your home on in the future, to build your home on now if you like, or you can use this as an investment to fund your lifestyle, whatever that may be. Here's a picture of it where it's at. You can see Secret Beach there at the top. The lot is highlighted in red down there, parcel number 9008. Excellent. All right. So we finishing up here with a quote from, again, one of my business mentors, Robert Kiyosaki. It's not about becoming rich. It's about attaining wealth. Rich is measured in dollars. Wealth is measured in time. So I love this because when I look at Belize real estate, it is a way to obtain wealth, and that is creating a lot of time. My wife and I are traveling for the next 3 weeks in Eastern Europe. This is not a vacation for us as it is we love to travel. So I've built a life that we don't need to escape from. So I'm not needing running away from everything. I don't need a break for my life. This is just something that investing in real estate is enabling me to do, and many of my clients as well. So this has been going on now for it's 8:13 here. So hour and 14 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to take any live questions today because I wanted to keep it to an hour. It's gone an hour and 15. But do me a favor, email me your questions, denniskii@gmail.com. I'd be very happy to get back to you as soon as I can. And thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been the lifestyle episode. Hope you enjoyed it, found it educational, and I hope to see you all in paradise soon. Bye.